And we are live. Welcome, one and all, to our monthly Angular Jeremy and Mark live stream where we answer your questions and sometimes do other stuff.
So good. I love it. I love it. Go for it. Jeremy in the building. Let's go. Let's go. I can see you up there. Now I'm not gonna look at my screen the whole time this time. Let's see. Very cool. Who we got in the building, Jeremy? Where's everybody at? What's going on? Let's see.
I gotta go open the actual
Yeah.
stream up over here to see.
Here we got Marcus. We got Michael Small in the building. Let's go. Let's go. All the community is coming in. Bonjour from Quebec. Oh, Mark. Hello, Mark. Mark. That's how I said. I'm trying to get my French accent back. Mark. It's Mark. Bonjour. What up? What up, Assad? What's going on? Hello. Everybody's popping in. Munir, what up, though? What's going on? Beast Lion Gaming. Let's go. What are we cooking today? We're gonna be in some code. Love Angular team from Brazil, man. A lot of love to Brazil. Thank you for support. Thank you thank you. So many people. I can't really see. I don't have my glasses on. Margaret, what up? How are you? Good to see you. Aaron. All right. I'm not gonna do what I normally do, which is to spend 5 minutes saying hello to everybody.
Yeah, you could just say hello to everybody.
I know, but I really like calling people out directly and just saying hello. Okay. In the interest, let's go. I'm glad that you are exploring different things. What I think is so interesting is that when developers come to the stream, I love it when developers are thinking like actual engineers and not thinking more along the line of like trolling. You know what I mean? Like you can like React and still like Angular. Like two things can be true. You can like more than one thing. You can like whatever you want to like.
This has always been a thing that surprised me, right? Is like there's so much tribalism in technology, right? Like even like putting web frameworks aside, right? Like just programming languages, people are like Rust diehards or Go extremists, whatever flavor of this you want. It's like they're all just different tools, and different tools are good at different things. And it's nice to have a broad set of skills. Try different programming languages, try different frameworks, figure out what works for you, figure out what works for specific projects. Don't tie yourself up. Don't tie your identity up in technology, right? Make your identity someone who can jump between technologies, who can switch between programming languages, be flexible.
Yes, be flexible. I like that. Before I was on the Angular team, I used to teach React to lots of developers. So like, I was like, yeah, I love what we're doing here, but I'm never going to be like, oh, React is terrible because it's not. Okay, very few things are terrible. I don't care who says, oh, this thing is terrible. Very few things are actually terrible. They just may not be what that person likes or prefers. But very few things are terrible. Real people build this stuff. Real people put their hearts and like souls into like their products. So you can not like it and it still not be terrible. You know what I mean? Like just get out of that perspective. Like, yeah, this is not for me. I don't prefer, whatever this XYZ framework. It doesn't mean that framework is terrible.
Yeah, a lot of people like to joke about PHP, but WordPress is still most of the web.
Yeah. Okay, so let's tell them what we're going to do today because I think people are really liking when we're getting involved. All right, so Jeremy, what happened this week? Can we tell them what happened this week?
In broad terms,
Yeah.
which is we have an annual developer conference inside of Google just for Google employees. And Mark and I are involved in organizing that and emceeing that. And for this event, we usually do just a little fun game at some point during the event. And Mark this year coded up that game. Mark, do you want to tell a little bit about it?
Yeah. Okay. So every year, Jeremy's like, "Hey, Mark, do you want to do like the fun activity?" And I'm like, "Sure." I'm gonna like do some game show hosting. Some of you may know me from Leet Heat, a game show that I host, and so I love to do this type of work. It's a lot of fun. Okay. So when Jeremy told me about I won't say the name of it because I don't want to. There's a game show in America that's all about using your knowledge of pricing of products to win the game. So a lot of times you're like bidding on how much could this car cost without going over, right? And so what I made was like a version of it, but based on like websites, right? Just like bidding on like the size of a website, like payload and stuff like that. And it was a multiplayer game, and it had 3 screens: the spectator view, which is what the audience watching the stream saw. There's the player view, which is what, if you were participating in the game, you got to see with special controls. Then there's the admin view, which is what I got to see, so I could control the game remotely. And all this had to work remotely because we were doing it. We had people everywhere. Now, what I thought could be fun is if we were able to improve my application and refactor the code. And I don't really I'm not sensitive, so I want to warn you. I hacked this together in like 20 hours of coding, like nonstop, just making something. So let's make it better, right? Like, this is not an example of Google approved like production code. This is just a little side app that I made really quick to accomplish the goal. I did not vibe code it. I actually just made some stuff. It is not designed to be secure, but let's fix it up. Let's refactor it. I thought that'd be a really fun activity.
Yeah. I thought it sounded fun to criticize Mark's code and try to iterate on it.
Yeah, let's iterate. Okay, so let me see.
You
Okay.
get your thing set up here, Mark, and I'll go ahead and answer a couple of questions on the stream.
Go for it. All right, that sounds great.
So Noah here asks, are there any showcases or examples of Signal forms? The answer to that is no, because it's not done yet. We're still working on Signal forms. The team is making a lot of good progress, and we hope to show something off in the not too distant future, sometime this year, but there is nothing to see just yet. Let's see. Pedem here asks, it would be nice to have a schematic to remove the component and service suffixes from class and file names. This is from the new style guide update we have in Angular version 20, where we're no longer explicitly recommending people add suffixes. Instead, we just leave it as a choice. Like, Angular itself has no opinion over whether or not you end your components in component and your services in service. And we probably won't add one ourselves, but it might make a good community contribution if someone wanted to build that and share it with other developers.
Okay, before we share, there's one more I want to touch on. Are there any public physical Angular conferences planned? There are actually quite a few planned this year here in the US and in Europe and in, let's say, in the UK and in Europe. And then I know UK is in Europe. I'm trying to say it's like in the UK specifically. And then there's some places outside of the UK, but still in Europe, that have conferences. So yes, there is a lot available. There's Well, go ahead, Jeremy.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, like, ngConf is happening.
That's here in the US.
Yep. And then there's Angular Connect, I believe, is happening.
That's in London. Mm-hmm.
And NG Poland.
And that's NG Poland. And I think there may be some other events. Oh, I think there's NG Kenya. So depending on where you are in the world, there are lots of physical conferences. Okay. All right, let's get into this. I don't want to delay the delayable. Okay, so I'm just gonna share the screen, and then do you want to fix the admin screen first, Jeremy, or which screen do you want to fix up?
Up to you. I'm not familiar with this code, so let's start somewhere.
Sure. Can I show the preview button so you can actually see it at the same time? So let's do preview. I do browser preview. Browse simple browser show. Okay, there we go. Simple browser, and if you go localhost, and then we do 4200/admin. It says it's going to bring up anything. Maybe no. Why don't you like this? Why don't you like it? I don't know why you don't like it.
All right. Well, you get that running. I got a question here I can answer. John asks, will there be steps towards something like NGX formally built into Angular? The current way to create forms and validations and interactions feels a bit dated. And yeah, like I mentioned, we are working on a brand new signal-based forms library. And like I said, it's not quite ready to show off yet, but it is really excellent. And it is very much looking at what else has been going on in the form space and looking at things like Zod that developers are reaching for today and saying, how can we make sure that that works with the form system? And we think people are really going to be happy with it.
I'm using, let's see, somebody says, what's the VS Code thing? I'm using high contrast.
Yeah.
I use high contrast just for.
I saw that high contrast theme.
Yeah. This is, I mean, I feel like if I'm going to show my screen, for me personally, if I want to show my screen publicly, I'm going to try to use high contrast all the time. Okay. So here is the screen, right? Yeah. It is designed to let me control the different games. So if you go to this game, then this game has specific controls. Then there are player data, like what the current guess is, what the current score is. Yeah. And then I could select the players for the game. And
this is such a real UI.
Oh, I mean,
like this is the UI of someone who's like, I need to get a thing done.
Listen, let's see. Let's see, players. Okay, there you go. So let's say that I was going to play one of our fictional players here, and you were going to, so let's see, the game there, it's hard to do this with one tab because I had multiple tabs open. So let me set the game. So they're in the lobby right now. Let's say they're going to play the payload bid game, right? And so then I had like my answers of like, okay, what is the current payload if you go in to download these sites? So I had the button set the current game, and in real time, if I was players, go back to the players. Who did I say I was? Doesn't matter. But now this person gets a screen where they can, let's see me hide this right here. Now they get a screen. Did I just, okay, it's still okay. There we go. Then they could enter their guess, and then their guess shows up, and I'll show you all the, and this is the screen that everybody sees when they're watching, right? With these nice little graphs at the bottom. So this is how this whole thing works. And so now it's like shooting data. No tailwind. That's funny, Evgeny. No tailwind. So the data is being shared using Firebase and secure. Okay, so now you got the idea. I think there's a whole bunch of work to be refactored here. So let's start looking at it and let's start refactoring.
Yeah. Your formatting for the switch with the case statement there is a little interesting.
You know why? That is the way it gets formatted by default. Even if I change it, it formats that way.
Prettier does that?
Yeah. See, so if I change it to like this, because I did have it like this. This is the way I like it. But it just is like, nope, I don't like it. I don't like it. Okay. So if I save that and then I do format document, for example, let's see. Oops. Nope, that's not what I wanted. Format document. Okay. See, it changes it to this format.
Huh. Wonder if it's maybe an older version of Prettier or something.
Could be. Somebody says install newer. I don't know what that means. Install a newer version.
I mean, put a newer version of Prettier or a newer version of VS Code, whatever it is.
You need to upgrade your Prettier. Yeah. How do I upgrade my Prettier?
The chat agrees. You need to upgrade your
okay, let's upgrade the Prettier. What do I change that? Package.json? No. No.
I don't know. I don't use VS Code. But we don't need to do that on stream.
Well, it's interesting. It's pretty enough. That's what Evgeny says. It's pretty enough. All right. We don't have to do this on stream. That's right. Let's not get sidetracked. So let's start refactoring some of the ways that I do some of the communication here.
Sure.
So for example, set the current game. So let's go to that implementation.
Yeah. So let's take a look at your code and see how the game is structured.
Oh, this is, and no wonder I couldn't do it. Okay. So let's go to the component. Admin. So the HTML got so large that I got out of control. All right, styles. Don't worry about my styles.
Styles. Just go ahead and collapse the styles. We don't need to look at those.
Yeah. No, don't worry about the styles. Styles, I don't care about this. All right, so let's look at some of my variables.
This is your admin component. Yeah, you got a bunch of protected read-only signals. You're injecting your Firestore. You've got a signal of a set.
Oh, there's a reason for that, and I don't remember what it is. So let's investigate that. Why did I do this? There was something that I was trying to solve for. Why did I do that? Come on, what's my, there it is. Okay, so let's look and see why did I do this? I'm not using it. I started to use it, and I ended up not using it.
Got it. You're not using it in your template?
It must be because it's not showing up here. Let's look at my template. I gotta be using it for something, but I don't remember.
No, it's dead code. Delete it.
Okay, first thing, delete it. I'm surprised it didn't show as unread variable. Oh, I guess because it's protected, it could be used by another API, right? Like, I mean, another component could blah blah blah. It's public. Okay. Somebody said, "What's wrong with this?" It's ready to stream. It's funny the same build on the stream. Okay. It seems like today the app is ready for stream, but it's more funny to build it on the stream. That's true. Jeremy and I are coming off of a very long week. We need a little bit of a respite.
I think it's fun. I think it's fun to look at the code that Mark wrote and see what we can do.
Yeah. Okay, not in alphabetical order. I'm okay with that. Jeremy, we're gonna fix this, right?
I mean, fix is a strong word because it works, but like maybe we'll do some refactoring. Let's see.
Yeah. What was I gonna say?
Right. So like if we want to get into the business of just like, okay, like just style stuff, right? Like off the bat, right? Like one of the things I would do is like I would take all the things that you're injecting and move those to the top of the class.
Yeah, let's do it.
Right. Like just get all the like dependencies up top so it's easier to see like what are your dependencies? What's your state?
Sure. That's good. I like that. I'm just gonna put some comments in here. Dependencies. Got it. Okay, so let's look at our state. This enum is not part of my state, so I can like, I gotta move this out of here someplace. Okay, this is just like enums. All right. Now I'm not advocating for friends at home to like, whatever. Yeah. I'm just doing it for the stream.
Yeah, like I would take the comments out of there, right? Like
it's for me to organize my thoughts. Then I'll take them out.
All right. But yeah, like this is like, I don't think people should generally have like section comments like this in their code. This is a controversial take, but like,
yeah,
code should mostly speak for itself. And if you find yourself needing to put like big section blocks in your code, it's a sign that you should be splitting up your code into either different files or into more kind of readable chunks.
Oh, that's interesting. You said so. Michael Small says, I personally like to use the hashtag private modifier for inject bars. I actually agree with that because nobody else should be using this but me. Where do I put that? Oh, I never use that.
I personally like, I don't have an opinion about like real private versus TypeScript private.
Oh, I see.
I think it would only really matter if you're working in an environment where like there would be some real risk of someone using that member when you really, really don't want them to. Maybe we should be using it more in Angular.
Yeah, maybe. Okay, let's analyze my state. So I recognize that I have a bunch of individual state signals that might be able to be converted into one state object that is a signal itself.
Yeah, you could, but then it gets a little complicated because you have to like, you'd want to treat that as immutable. And so you'd be like cloning that object when you want to train something. Okay. And so there's nothing wrong with having kind of granular pieces of state like this in your component. But let's look at this computed right here. I wanna dig into this computed. So
yeah, sure.
You're saying you've got a selected player ID, which is their signal, which is local state. That makes sense. And then you have the selected player, which is a computed, where you're looking at that selected player ID, and you are finding that player.
Yes.
But you've got a side. Is that oh no, I see. You're saying player equals that player, return true. Oh, okay. So yeah, this could be simplified here, Mark.
Yeah, let's simplify it. So let me tell you what the problem I was solving was, so then we can know exactly what to change here. So I had selected player ID, which is really the like storage ID, if that makes sense, like to the document in the database. Because this was a one-time app, I didn't want to have some like fancy like login that lets you get your ID dynamically. I'm like, no, we're going to hard code the IDs for this in the database because it's only going to be 5 players, right? With that constraint in mind, I figure out who the selected player is, and then sometimes I need that actual object that contains the rest of the metadata about that player.
So for this selected player here,
Yeah.
you should be able to one-line this, right? Like this should just be this dot players dot find player, and then like returns. Like you don't even need the return statement if you don't have braces, but then like
So we should be able to say player.
you're actually like just go ahead and
Never, because it works right now. I'm never going to delete it. I'll delete it
no,
after.
you're changing it the wrong place.
Oh, you want me to? Okay, fine.
Yeah, higher level.
Where do you want me to change it at? You mean at this level?
The whole computed expression.
Yeah. What do you want to happen to it?
So, see, we should have gone into the mode where I can like type in your IDE.
I mean, if you want to do that, we could still do it.
So just say select a player equals computed.
Yes.
Error function.
Yes.
Then no braces. This dot players.
Oh, you want to do that? Keep going.
Fine. Oh yeah, there you go. Take that suggestion. Boom. That's it.
Great.
That is the equivalent of what you have there.
Yeah, that sounds good. That's actually nice. Let's see. That's great. That's great. That's great. Okay, so we just get the player. Okay, for equals. Yes, that's what we want.
All right.
But wait, doesn't that mean that my selected player type should be player or undefined?
That is correct. It should be.
Okay. Now, does that mean my template needs to be updated to make sure that I'm using like? So let's see if I'm using that selected player anywhere. Okay, I am doing the right thing.
Yeah, I mean it could have been undefined before too.
Yeah. I was just making sure that I got the right thing in my thing here. Okay. Yes, that's clean. I like that refactor.
All right, and go ahead and move. You've got that last signal there. Go ahead and bump that up above the computed. I would do.
I don't know why I have a separate signal for that. Maybe we can.
Well, go ahead, just go to it and hit like I think it's Shift F12 to see like are you using it anywhere?
Shift F12. Nope. Okay, Shift function F12. Okay, so I do it right here. Man, Jeremy, look at you. Okay, so on submit, some random on submit function.
All right, get those search results out of there.
Okay,
it's clogging up the screen. All right, let's look at this on submit. Yeah. So first of all, I put a little bit of guidance in the new style guide mark, which is, you generally want to avoid having a lot of logic inside of your like event handlers, or you want to name event handlers for what they do rather than when they're being called, right? And so if you look at this function, it's like on submit. It's like, what does that do? It's like, I have no way of knowing. It's just, it runs whenever a submit happens. And so what does that button do?
I'm trying to remember. I don't think I didn't use it. Here's what it was intended to do. So let's go back to the admin, because we can refactor this and maybe make it work. I ran out of time. I'm not gonna lie to you. Let me zoom out a little bit. It's not very okay. So if I do the budget game, I wanted this to work. I never got this to work, which is, remember when we were doing it, and the last two, I said I couldn't get their guesses on the screen at the same time because I couldn't get this to work in time. I just ran out of time. So I want to say, Alex and Julie, if you're the ones who won, you are the two selected players, and then in the database, someplace behind the scenes, it should be protected. That on submit. Okay, we can change it.
Don't worry. Well, minor. It's a minor concern, right?
Yeah, but that's what this was for. Is to make this work. So,
let's go back to code.
Yeah, let's fix this. So you want to refactor. You want to rename this. So there's a control function.
Yeah. So this, I would call it like select budget game players.
Yeah. What? Okay, there you go.
Yeah. And so, for context, one of my own personal opinions on naming is that you should always name your functions for what they do, not when they're going to be called. And that's why I don't love event handlers that are named like on click or on submit, right? Like name the thing for what it does. And the only time it really makes sense to name something like that is if you actually have to do something like very complicated, right? There's not like one good name, or you can't come on one good name. Like key handlers is a good one. It's like, okay, I need a like on key down handler, and I'm going to have like a switch statement for a bunch of different things. That's okay. That's reasonable. But then each of those different key handlers, they should call their own well-named function. So for like arrow keys, it's like, navigate next, navigate previous. Don't just like put all of that code in your event, like listener body directly.
All right. So let's engage with our cool community here.
Oh yeah.
How do you guys go ahead? Sorry.
I think this is something we're going to do in a future stream.
Oh, like use Gemini. Yes, there's something coming with this. No, Jeremy uses WebStorm. I use VS Code. But yeah, protected is an example. Yeah, that's pretty good. I like that. I'm happy to like start incorporating this as like a standard for me in this app. Yeah, so you could totally do that. Oh, well, you can't. Why? No, you can't have a read-only function. Like if I put read-only here, that should make sense.
That's not.
Yeah, but you saw how it was suggested though.
Yeah.
And knowing the difference.
All right. So anyway, this function, you're saying like the budget game. Okay.
Right. So from the checked players, get the 2 players for the budget game.
Yep. Yeah, that makes sense. You may, you could put a to-do in there that is like to-do, make sure this is exactly 2 players.
Oh yeah. Okay, watch this. Let's see. Ensure that this is exactly 2 players. If not, do not set the signal.
I said do nothing.
Okay, let's say do nothing. Do nothing.
All right.
Wait.
You got a prompt with that?
Yeah. Boom. Done. To do completed. Bam.
All right. Yeah, you did it. All right.
Let's keep going down. All right.
So you got save store.
So this should never be called by anybody but me. But I wonder, is it protected? I think this one's protected.
I mean, yeah, whatever. The protectors don't matter, right?
I like it for just like, improving, right? I know what you're saying, but I'm saying I like it. All right, so let's look at the send command function because I use this a lot. And I started like aliasing the function to kind of make it convenient.
Yeah, I mean, send commands, not a very descriptive name.
Yeah, well, command is like a command for the database. So pretty much, I'll just say what the commands are. The command is what should your player UI do or the spectator UI do. Those are those commands are.
Okay. Yeah. So, okay. So I think I'm starting to get some ideas here of, is this all in your component?
Yeah, we can pull this out to a service. Totally.
Yeah. See, I think that's one thing that I would do is like, I would probably have a service that represents like the game state.
Okay. So I started working kind of toward that. But I realized that on the last, the night before we did it, I was like, oh, I was rewriting the same code. Like, okay, I'm not gonna explain everything, but I'll say this. That was one of the things that I started to do. Like, oh, I should really have a service for a lot of this stuff because I'm doing it over and over again, and I'm copying it here over and over again, right? So should we do the service rewrite?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Good, I think scaffold out a little service. You maybe even can prompt in this file, just be like, hey, refactor out XYZ code into a separate service class and then move that over.
Okay, hold on 1 second though, because we got a problem. My template never got changed because I changed it. That's interesting. The refactor didn't change the HTML references. You see what I'm saying? So this is my template. It's an HTML file. The refactor did not impact this one. But that's surprising to me. As G says, I see any, I light up the torches. Listen, I have a good reason. Okay. Let's take a second to answer some questions from our community.
Sure. So I see one here.
Somebody says, why are you using the environment injector? Let me tell you why. because when you're running Firebase, like stuff like this, like write batch, the way Angular Fire works, could you? I got it. I got it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. All right.
But yeah, the environment injector thing, it's a consequence of the way Angular Fire is implemented.
Right. Answer some questions for a second, Joe. I need a second. Go ahead and talk to the people. I just need a second.
Yeah, so I think that the way Angular Fire injection is set up is it's using kind of the older ng module injection, where things are provided through, I think it's like ng module with like a for root provider. And the environment injector is what we now call, like in the past, it used to be called ng module injector. And the, how do I explain this? It's the environment injector, it's a little more complicated than this, but you can kind of think of it as like a fallback injector for when you're looking for something in your component hierarchy. So like if you're in a component and it's like, hey, I want to inject this thing. It's like, okay, I'm going to like walk up the component tree and look for that thing. And if it doesn't find it, it's going to like fall back to an environment injector, which is generally something that's either coming from like the root injector or from an ng module providers. As we move to more code being standalone, it's generally something you don't really have to think about more. If you were in a world where everything was standalone, like you wouldn't have to think about environment injectors really. And it's also like a little bit more complicated than I'm making out to seem, because you can have like multiple environment injectors and like multiple levels of fallbacks, but you don't have to think about that most of the time.
Yeah. And so here's the consequence of not doing this, because Josh, a great question. Here's the consequence for me not doing this in this application. This is not in general. Angular Fire tells you that if something's running outside of an injection context, it may cause disruptions or inconsistent data state. And I found that happening where I would try to send a command or run a batch update and it wouldn't change for everybody. And that's like, why is that happening? It was because I was missing the injection context here. Okay. So any like database access stuff, I agree that I should have all that in like a service. I totally agree. And people, let me remind everybody about something super important. During our live streams, our code of conduct is intact, right? The same code of conduct if you're interacting with us on X, on YouTube, on GitHub, that is still intact everywhere. So let's be really mindful that we are communicating with respect and kindness and thoughtfulness. Okay. Now, you folks are doing really good. This is not, you can talk about this code all you want. Just letting you know, this is not about the code. Nothing about the code. Okay. Just saying. Everybody else, though, who's not being thoughtful and mindful in the way they're interacting with us, you will be removed. Okay. But you folks talking about the code, no problem. Seriously. I'm not talking about that. All right. Let's do the service. NGGS. I'm going to make Jeremy really surprised at my behavior. I'm going to call it, you said game service? So I'm going to do game service. I'm going to do this.
Yeah, we're not writing tests.
I'll do it right now.
For this.
Oh, Adrian, I don't know. I know they just released V20. I don't know if they fixed it or not. I didn't get to check the change log.
Yeah, I'm actually not aware of this issue. It is not something that crossed my desk. Yeah, you have our permission to not write tests for code that is only for funsies.
Yeah. Hero skip test. Jeremy, I had this dream that we're going to do a live stream where all we do is like explore tests and test harnesses and everything. So friends, don't worry, we will do.
Yeah. Oh, see, I would love to do a stream that's just focused on testing.
Yeah, we will. 100%. 100%. I want to do it too. All right,
This is a question for you, Chad. Do you want to see a stream that is focused just on testing?
Not data service. We call this a game. What did it get called? Game service. Is that what it got called? Inject equals inject. I'm not even trying to wait. You know the hardest thing I have with with the advent of these like tools, sometimes the IntelliSense comes through and it clouds the screen, and then the AI suggestions cloud the screen. I'm like, I don't want to do either one of these. Does everybody stop? You know what I mean? Like I feel overwhelmed sometimes. Like I just want I just want to type my own code sometimes. Sometimes I'm like, okay, I do want it.
Yeah, I have moments like that too with the auto completion. I'm just like repeatedly like, no, stop. That's not what I want. Stop. Like your prediction is entirely wrong.
Yeah. Or I don't want the prediction, or I want the satisfaction just typing in myself because I knew what to type. You know what I mean? MG stream include test. Okay, wait. This is the type of content I'm here for. I'm here for this. Oh, super excited. Super excited for signals. Yes, they are awesome. We're so glad you like them. So glad. Versa test. Listen, you ain't the only one, brother. Don't you worry about it. Oh, Claire, sorry. A friend, you're not the only one. Don't you even worry about it. All right. We all can learn. Test stream will be good. We'll do it. We'll do it. All right. So now let's start moving some of the stuff over to that service. So then would you say this send command should probably go over there first as a private?
Yeah, that seems like just an implementation detail of that service.
Wait, what? Okay, all of this. Okay, all of this is right. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna remove this so everything breaks so we can know what to fix.
Yeah, and then also I saw that any. We're gonna fix that any.
We're gonna fix it. I'm gonna explain it. I promise I'm gonna explain it.
You don't have to defend yourself, Mark, right? Like, look, we've all done things when we're under tight deadlines.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, I'm glad I don't have to explain why I did it, because I'm like, that's exactly why I did it, and I was like, okay, and because the data shape was evolving at the time, so I was like, I just put any. I don't have time to think about this. All right. So let's talk about some of these functions real quick. This is not an Angular Fire tutorial or a Firebase tutorial, but I was using Fire, so this is like a document, and then this is actually these are all functions from Firestore. You know, I'd never asked anybody if you could see my code. Let me just make it a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, it looks good to me. I have the stream up over here, and I see it as readable.
Okay. So we do this, and then send command is still not the command I want to expose, probably. Right?
No, that's an implementation detail.
Yeah, I don't want to expose that. So we got a game server. So really what I want, let's see, everywhere I have send command.
Yeah. So to catch anybody up who might be joining the stream a little late, because I see we've got more people joining in, Mark has spent a little bit of time in the past week throwing together this very hacky game that we used for an internal event inside of Google. And now we're coming through, and we're looking at that code that was written under very tight time pressure and cleaning it up a little.
Yeah. All right, so saving the score, right? So one, let me put my braces there. Okay, and then we're gonna take this. So this will become. We just got to fix it. What is it? This should this be just a raw call to save command? Okay, let's see. So we do this dot game surface dot. It's not send command, so this could be save player score. So it's super clear, right? Like that. That's what I think should happen.
Yeah.
And then let's do, is it command dot I want? Declare, yes, I want that. So what I did learn or experience while I was doing all of this is the combination of deterministic tools in like your editor plus AI suggestions plus autocomplete can make you super powerful if you get all your shortcuts running. Like I was like really moving quickly and getting a lot of stuff done, getting a lot of code written with this. It was really awesome when I started to do everything the way it was supposed to be done. Oh, I think you need the player here, right?
Yeah, you're gonna have to pass in whatever player you're wanting to save to.
Jeremy, I do have some problems with your style guide. You know what I kept importing from my data object? I kept importing the component because they had the same name.
I don't follow what you mean.
Sure. So there's a player component
Mm-hmm.
and there's a player interface.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the right, I mean, I know what the right thing is, but I'm saying it is possible to do this and not realize. So if I do this, you see?
Yeah. I know what you mean, right? Like you can, I think it's still reasonable to have like some noun in the name of either the component or in the data model. And so like one thing you can do is say like, okay, I have player as the component and like player model as the data, or flip it around, you can say player is the model and then like player view.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Or player dashboard or player controls, right? Like the guidance I really want to like emphasize is, try to pick a name that like more conveys the like responsibility of this thing. Like the class should be named based on like what the class is doing, what it's responsible for. Oh, I say we have some .NET developers in the chat. Yeah, but ultimately, a style guide, it's a recommendation, right? Like, if you want to call your stuff component, call a component. Like, no, the naming police aren't going to come after you.
So let me ask you this question, Jeremy. This is a good question. Why not use iBrief for interface like iPlayer? I used to do that in Java all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I've always thought of that as like a .NET thing. The .NET developers like to do that. I think it's a little bit weird for us inside of Google. This is a convention that is like, I think it is actually banned, like forbidden inside of Google's style guides. It's like you don't start identifiers with I, or interfaces with I mean to say. And that's just what I'm used to.
Look at them. And maybe there's look, I think that says greater than one view of the player data, like the player detail versus player info card. Interesting, Jan. Interesting. I'm not mad at it. I love it. I think Style Guide says not the prefix interface with I. I don't know. Jeremy wrote the style guide, so
yeah, our style guide doesn't say anything about it because that's just a TypeScript thing, right?
But
We try not to have any opinions, or we try not to have a lot of opinions about just like writing TypeScript code. But there is a like Google TypeScript style guide that's been published, and I think that does say not to use the I interface prefix.
Yeah. Let me ask you another implementation question. I think this if guard should go in the service and not at the save score. Because I feel like that's, I don't know. What do you think?
Sorry, say that again.
So for this guard I have right here on line 96, I think they should go in the service.
Yeah, I mean, that's reasonable. Like, in what situation would a player not have that data? Right? Do you even need that check at all?
Yes. Well, no, not anymore. The data was evolving as I was making this. And so I added storage ID, and I was just trying to avoid like a bunch of stuff, right? So like now you have the storage ID. You should have the storage ID. Yeah, let's assume that you have it. I mean, because if you don't have it, other things have gone wrong, and the state of the game will be out of state no matter what, out of sorts, if that makes sense.
So we do have a question here. Steve is wondering, can you just use the regular Firebase JavaScript APIs rather than Angular Fire? And yes, absolutely. You can just use the like regular Firebase APIs. You don't necessarily need to use Angular Fire. My understanding is that Angular Fire just adds, there are like services you can inject and things like that that are like a little bit better integrated with the framework, but it's not a requirement.
Yeah, awesome. Here's something really great. Tony Alessia, I actually met Tony in person. Tony's a fantastic community member and teacher. The most important parts about naming are consistency and clarity. Everything else is article taste.
That's true.
Yeah, I think you two will get along quite well, actually. Have very similar, like pragmatic views about things that are quite reasonable. All right, so let's change this budget answer. Is this specific? Okay, so this one is going to a particular database document, which is called BB for like Budget Buster, right? Like, don't roast my document name, but I think I can have a command. So is the command to send is the function to send the data as the parameters, or do I just alias the whole command and just on? You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. No, actually, I don't know what you're saying.
That's okay. Sure. So right now, I'm using the send command function, which is private. So do I want a send budget command?
Oh, yeah. Like, I think, yeah, that is the way I would do it, right? Is like you have this well-defined set of verbs that your service is
Okay,
going to support.
let's do that then. So let's just say this dot data or game service dot send budget command. All right, because I just want to like what I want to do here. Let me explain to you what I want to do. I'm going to declare this method. What I want to do is really tell you what the data is. It's just this data, right? And then I don't want you to really think about where it's going to go when you get there. You see what I'm saying? I want that information to be kind of hidden away from you.
That's internal.
Yeah, right. That's internal. Exactly.
All right. So there's an interesting question here I'm going to talk about while you're coding that. Francois asks, for computed signals with expensive computations, I'd like to cache the computed values for future app loads. Is there a way to initialize a computed value from this cache value? And so this is very interesting. The way I might go about modeling this, I haven't really like thought about this before, but what I might do is actually create a signal value that is initialized from, say, I don't know if you're using like local storage or IndexedDB or wherever you're reading this from, but like, let's just say for the sake of conversation, local storage. And so you could have a signal that on initialization reads that value from local storage. And then in your computed, you're basically saying like, if I have this cache value from local storage, return that. Otherwise, return the result of the computation. And then you can put something in your UI, in your code, to invalidate that cache data if it were to become stale.
Jeremy, I kind of want to do this. And fine, tell me what the right thing to do is here, right? But what I want to say is like, I want a constant, like the BB document path. I want this because.
So my question is, are you using it in more than one place?
I was at one point, but I also don't like to put strings places because it's kind of like putting a one. What does that one represent, right? Like I like to say what the hard-coded values represent. So I would much rather it be like a constant or like one of the union types. You see what I'm saying? They can only be one of these.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like, there's a couple of different ways you can do this. Like, yeah, you could make a so there's a couple of ways you could do this. One is like just make it a string and you pass it in, and that's fine. Like I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with that if you're only ever having it in one place.
Yeah.
The other thing you can do is like say, okay, for my send command, rather than just taking a string, it's going to take a string literal enum of the paths that are in my app.
Yeah, I like the enum idea. The string
so what you could do is like go in the top of this file above the injectable just for sake and say like export type data endpoints, I guess.
It's really document
data endpoint. What is it?
Documents, technically.
Yeah, like document endpoints or whatever you want to call it.
Well, you said export what you called? You said a type?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's going to be Pascal case, not all caps.
What's Pascal case? Which one is that one? I don't remember.
That is the like also called upper snake case, which is or Apple camera case. I mean.
Oh, kind of like okay, sure. Document.
Yeah, like a class. Endpoint, singular. Equals, and then it's like /command/bb. Not even not an object literal, but
Oh, okay. So I put the first one.
Yeah, like that, or like, did you see what I mean now?
Oh yeah, okay.
And and then like make that type the second of send command. So it's like, okay, you're gonna still list it out, but it's gonna enforce you're only hitting one of the like well-defined endpoints that you have in that type there.
One of my endpoints is like this. What do I do in that case? Is there anything I can do when it's a dynamic?
Oh, there is some sort of like TypeScript thing for that maybe, but I don't remember how it works off the top of my head or if it does what you want. Like dynamic, like template string literals. I don't remember.
All right, so this might be template string types exist.
Our teammate Jan in the chat says there is the templated string types.
All right, so before I go down that path, there are other things I can fix first, and then we're going to come back to do this one.
Yeah, like this is minor. Honestly, I think this is a little bit like over-engineered for this particular use case. I'm of the opinion that if like you're going to only ever list the string out one place, then just put the string there.
Okay.
It's really like you're balancing like the additional like extra code, like tiny bit of complexity from like splitting it up and introducing the indirection versus how error prone is it. And if you're only ever using it in one place, it's like you're not risking a lot of like errors or problems or bugs.
Let me do one thing. Let me tag some questions that we'll answer. We'll take a break in a minute and we'll answer some actual questions. I think we're doing good, making some good progress on the refactoring. Let's fix this data type. So the data type is a bunch of different formats. So you could have like a command, you could have command plus the current guest. So I can make that one optional, or you could have current player as the only thing. So all the values, is that, let's see. Okay, player guest, current player. Yeah, see, you got a few of these. I think that's really it. I'm just looking real quick to see if I have any more. Current player, current game. Man, see, that data could look in like so many different ways. And that's probably a problem with the way that I designed it, which I'm like fine with, right? Like you're like, well, do something different. But in the short term, I think what we can do to fix all these any's is define what the ones that we know, right? We know it's I'm just gonna write them out real quick, and then I'm gonna move this into a real place. So I think we said command is one type, user guess, and then there's what is this? I put a whole bunch of stuff. Let me see. Oh man, there's a highlight. There is so many things I built into this. Jeremy, I was moving fast. Let's see. What else?
We ran the game and it worked.
Status round. Man, I have a lot. Okay, so it's actually different type. Okay, here's what we should do. All these types are not the same. So let's handle the command type first. Because what we really would have, here are the different types, right? There's like the command type, which will have its properties. And then, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot to do. So should I just make that into a type? Let's see.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like most of these commands, right? Like you want to just move into the into that service.
You want me to just put it there instead?
Yeah, I think so.
Support it from the service. Okay, so let's do that then. I'm fine with that.
See, I don't know if we're just moving everything from one grab bag to another, but I think like at least it'll like be focusing the component just on like the UI concerns.
Wait, hold on. What's NGS? I forgot what NGS is. I'll do NGG. What's NGS?
I don't know.
Should I type it?
I think this is imagining a future feature.
Oh, is this like NG serve?
Oh, that's NG serve.
Yeah.
Oh, I say.
Oh, why did I kill my app?
I've always just typed out NG serve.
Oh, this is just my app's running. All right.
All right. Well, while you keep poking away at the code.
Yeah, I started some questions.
I saw. I'll answer the questions. So, does the team plan to make Angular route data typed? Maybe something like generics. I think definitely something like this would be nice. A lot of the older Angular APIs that still use any were implemented in the very early days of TypeScript and didn't really have the capacity for having more granular type information when, they were written back in 2015, 2016. And changing things now is unfortunately can often be breaking, but having kind of a better story in general around defining data and associating that data with routes is something that we are very actively thinking about. And so maybe something like this could happen. I don't know exactly the form it would take, but something that's on our minds. Let's see. Mark Star, you just heard that one question. Let's see. Avian asks here, would we still recommend using Angular elements for modernizing legacy apps piece by piece? And I think this is definitely a strategy you can use. I don't know that there is any one strategy for, modernizing legacy apps that is always going to be the right thing for everyone. But if you want to transition code over to Angular from something else, the Angular Elements approach is a convenient way of just being able to drop Angular authored stuff into an arbitrary UI, thanks to kind of the universal participation model of custom elements. And so if that works for you, great. I know we've seen other teams inside of Google and outside of Google using route boundaries as a way of doing this kind of interop where you kind of do entire routes at a time. There's always iframes too, if it comes to that. But it's definitely an option that you can consider. Let's see.
Well, because it's in a command type.
Jean-Marie asks, does the Angular team plan to make a kind of mobile framework like React Native? And for this, we don't plan on doing anything like that ourselves. The Angular team, our expertise is in the web. And, I wouldn't rule it out for all eternity, but at least in the immediate future, it's not something that we would be interested in working on. Or not even interested in working on, just don't have the capacity, right? Our backlog just for making Angular better on the web is quite long, and that's where we're focused. But there are community solutions out there for building native mobile applications with web technologies, Angular, and so there's NativeScript out there. There's always Ionic out there, and those community solutions are probably what we would point people towards for the foreseeable future.
Okay, I don't know what they're complaining about. Oh, is that why this is? Oh, what does update document take?
So got another question here from Ahmed. So the Angular docs say to not overuse effects, but I use them a lot for showing toasts or triggering something based on resource value or error. Is that okay? Is there a better practice? Yeah, it's a little bit nuanced, right? And so it's hard to say you shouldn't use effects because we made the effect API. It's there for a reason, and there are certain things that you absolutely should use the effect API for. But we have also seen people use effects in situations where a different API would have been better. And a lot of the time you can use something like computed or resource or linked signal instead to get what you need. And so in the case of saying okay, I want to show some pop-up notification when a certain thing happens, yeah, that's a reasonable use of an effect. There's nothing really wrong with that. The alternative would be if you had a UI component that was looking at some computed of should I show do I have an error, and if so, show this. But that has its own trade-offs, and it's kind of weird to have something in your template that ends up being a pop-up and conditionally showing it. So I think effects are a perfectly reasonable choice for that. The place where you really do want to avoid effects is if you find yourself using effects to synchronize data or synchronize state between two different parts of your application. If you're saying hey, I've got this signal, and whenever that signal changes, I want to go write this other signal over there. That's usually a sign that your state should just be living at a higher level, and both of those places should be deriving their state from the same source. You should have like that single source of truth where you're deriving things from. Cool. So let's see what else we got here. So there's a question here. Should we use signals instead? I'm assuming this meant to say instead of inputs, or both have different usages. They're for different things. So inputs are for components and directives who say, like, I want to receive some data through binding, right? So, if you have a checkbox component, it has an input for whether or not that checkbox is checked, whether or not that checkbox is enabled. It's saying, like, I'm receiving this data as part of my API contract. You would declare a kind of like a signal. You would create a signal internally with like the signal function or with link signal if you are just storing some local state. And so both of them have their usages, and it's worth mentioning, right? Like the input function and the like model function, those create signals as well, right? Like signals is a data type, and many different functions create a signal. And so input creates a signal, model creates a signal. The function that is called signal creates a signal, computed creates a signal. And each of those signals are, a little bit different, whereas like the computed signal is read-only, whereas calling the signal function gives you a writable signal. Input gives you a read-only signal, model gives you a writable signal. And all of that, they're all signals. They all kind of work together as part of that larger reactivity story. All right. And Mark, I'm sorry to be ignoring you, but we have some good questions.
No, you answer the good questions because I'm cooking right now.
Yeah. So Aaron asks here, is it okay to combine observables with signals? And yeah, of course, we have the Angular RxJS interop package that is intentionally there to help bridge and interop signals with observables. And the thing I'll say here is that, we kind of get a related question to this very often, which is that are signals a replacement for observables?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer is mostly no, but there are places where you could use signals where you would previously have used observables. And that I think is where people kind of get this replacement idea, because there's a lot of different ways you can use observables, right? They're a very flexible construct. And so if you need to model a stream of events where events happen at a certain point in time or may never happen at all, then observables are really good for that. But people have also used observables for saying, I have some state and I would like to consume that state and also be notified when that state changes. And, historically, before we had, signals around, people would use observables for this. And this is a place where you can use signals instead. You can say like, I'm going to create some signal that has some state, and then I can have consumers of that state that are also kind of notified, so to speak, when that state changes, where the notification here can be a little bit more implicit if you're using computed. So you say like, I'm going to define a computed, I'm consuming this signal over here, and my computed will automatically get updated when that dependent signal changes. And so before you could have used ArcGIS for that. Now you can use signals for that. And so in that sense, you could say like, okay, like you can alternatively use a signal here, but for that, earlier event-based, time-based thing, like you wouldn't use signals for that, right? Like you would never create a signal called, like changed and create an effect where you're going to I want this to run every time a change occurs at the point in time when that change occurs. That is not what signals are for, meant to be used for, and it won't even really work because signal mutations and like the effects that occur as a result of them are kind of batched and scheduled together. And so you lose that fidelity of it happening at a single point in time. And so kind of understanding that distinction is important to saying like what's appropriate for using an observable versus what's appropriate for using a signal. Yeah, so this is a good way of putting it here. Is like when there's no time involved, there's no when. Like signals are good, otherwise observable.
Jeremy, if I want to do this, I think I can do this. You could tell me if this is right. Oh, that's right. Okay, cool. Never mind.
Yeah. See, I've been answering questions. I haven't been paying attention to what you're doing, Mark.
No, you're fine. I'm just like engineering over here, buddy. All right, let's see what people are talking about. I've been like listening to you. And one question that I did want to say was about like the mobile app development stuff. If you want to do like web views with like APIs and stuff, like in a web view, use Ionic, right? Like if that's where your core competency is, use Ionic. If you want the like React Native alternative or comparison where it's like actual like natively rendered, UI elements and stuff like that, and you want to be able to like use device, you can still use device with Ionic, but if you want to use stuff that's like specific APIs that work on the mobile side, you want to use something like NativeScript. Ionic does export a bunch of like packages and wrappers. One thing NativeScript does do that is very interesting is that they give you direct platform access through their like things. Jeremy, can we ever stream building mobile apps with these technologies?
We could give it a shot.
Well, I got to talk to and make sure that it doesn't come off as us being like biased or unfair if we like use it. We got to find out. I don't want to, create negative feelings in the community. Someone's like, "Oh, why didn't you use our thing?" You know what I mean?
And also on this topic, Gabriel here says, "What about PWAs? I love PWAs. Yeah, do it. There's absolutely nothing stopping you from using, making a PWA with Angular. That should just work."
You know what's wild about that? I wrote a rap conference talk about making PWAs in Angular, and it's like a whole rap. I wrote 5 songs.
Yeah.
And y'all didn't even listen to it. What y'all doing? What y'all in here doing?
So Alien here asks a good follow-up question on the observables and signals conversation of what are some good use cases for streaming resources and how are they different compared to observables? And so this is great because this kind of further highlights what we were just talking about. And so if you wanted to do something in your UI whenever kind of a new chunk of data were to arrive, right? You wanted to do something imperative based on that, then you could use an observable for that, right? Like you want to say like, I care about every single chunk of data that is coming back and I want to do something when I receive a chunk of data. So that is getting to like, okay, time is a factor here, right? I want the timeliness of those, bits of data on the stream and I want to do something with them. However, if you're saying like, I just want to use the result of this is where like streaming resource would come in, where it's saying like, I don't necessarily care about like every single bit of data that I'm getting on the stream. I just want to surface the result of that data in my UI. That is where kind of the resource would be useful, where you're just saying like, I just care about the value and I want to, maybe be able to show the progress. Maybe I want to, show if there's like any errors or the status of this. That is where the kind of the streaming resource would be the thing. And I think on the team, we think that in the majority of cases, people really just care about the value, kind of like the result of that asynchronous streaming request. And that for most people, the resource is going to be the thing that makes sense to reach for.
All right, let's see if I'm trying to break my app, Jeremy. So I've done a lot of refactoring, and now we're at the point where I'm just trying to like remove code where the code doesn't need to be, like this place right here, right? So this should be this.game service. That literally what Gemini's telling me, right? Like, okay, get that extra thing out of there, but yeah. So then, okay, that looks good. See, like this command, this is literally the same thing. Well, this is great though, because now I'm able to delete a lot of code from this process. Look at that, deleted. All right, so this TSC command, what does TSC stand for?
No idea.
I can tell you. It stands for one of these. Total size challenge, maybe.
Yeah. So what's your current state, Mark? What are you focused on right now?
Right now, I'm refactoring a bunch of my code to be less messy. So I'm just trying to delete code. I'm trying to get a bunch of deletions. So if we look at our admin.ts, I want the number of deletions here to be like bananas. Here, let's see. You see, I want, like, you see, look at all that deletion. You see what I'm saying? Like, I want deletions. I want to refactor this and yeah, get it there. Now we could pause the deletion process and focus on something else if you want. Actually, I do want to pause this. So I'm going to do one more, but I do want to pause this. You know why? You know what I really care about is I'm reusing a component in multiple places, right? So it's the same component, but one for the player view, one for the spectator view. I know there are opportunities to extract the business logic from that component to be at like in the parent level, and then have the component be presentation only with inputs and outputs. I'd love for us to spend a little time fixing that up.
Go for it. Although we have like about 15 minutes left.
So you want to start that or just not start that for now?
I don't know. How far do you think you can get in 15 minutes? Otherwise, we could just answer any questions and
I know
chat.
always to the top, baby. Don't you know about that?
So we got some more good questions in here though.
Let's go ahead and answer some questions. I got to do a couple more things.
So we got a question here. Will we completely drop support for Zone.js and the old way of doing change detection? In most cases, this developer doesn't care about performance, but development speed. And so for the foreseeable future, we don't plan on getting rid of Zone.js as an option. We know that this is pretty load-bearing for a lot of code out there, and that it's really just too difficult, too time-consuming to fully get off of Zone.js. I can't make any promises from now until the end of eternity, but we don't really see anything in the foreseeable future where we're like going to like deprecate Zone.js and kind of the zone-based change detection. We do want to continue working on making zoneless, obviously get zoneless change detection to stable and have that, be, signals and zoneless be kind of the Angular of the future. And we want to figure out more ways to make it easier for people to adopt that. And, we're thinking about a lot of different ways. We're like, hey, how can we help people take existing code bases and move them to zoneless over time so that it's like less work, less breaking. We're still kind of thinking about those problems, but zones there's probably going to be around for quite a while yet. And then there's one here. When using zoneless, can we still define reactive forms as we normally do? Yes, you should be able to just use reactive forms normally. If your application's, all zoneless and on push and you're using signals, then totally. That said, we are working on a new forms API that is based on signals from the ground up, and we think developers are going to like that a lot once we have more to show. Let's see. Aaron asks, would placing signals in a service be a good idea, or should it only be in components? Using signals in services is great. In fact, that was a design decision we made with the way that we're doing signals, so that you explicitly could use them anywhere, not just in components and directives, but in services, or even just in regular classes, even just in functions. But yeah, like Angular's signals are purely a runtime construct. There's no compiler magic when it comes to like the signal dependency graph or anything like that. And so you can use signals anywhere, and we encourage you to, use signals anywhere. You can have services, you can make your own stores and things like store state, and have that reactivity move throughout your application. That is fully working as intended. Yeah, just let's do it. It is different, I think, from like a comparison here. Another framework I admire is Svelte. And in Svelte, like they have this kind of magic rune syntax that only works inside of Svelte components, if I remember correctly. And so that is one where it's like it is more kind of intentionally focused in the like component space. So it's a bit of a different approach there.
Jeremy, before we answer our final questions, because we're almost there, I think the community is right in calling out that I've noticed that my interface types have like starting to grow. Right, I'm doing like some of the like inheritance stuff here, but I wonder if there's a better way for me to do this with TypeScript. Because then what also is going to happen is that down here, because the send command can take any one of these types, this list is going to keep growing, and I feel like
yeah. So like this, I'll say like this feels a little suspicious to me, right? Like what are all of these different command types for?
Yeah. So different command types, because I battle between taking one interface and adding a bunch of optional parameters, or having more descriptive ones and just extending, the base one, right? With the base thing of like the command keyword, and then just adding things where it's unique. So like this player update one really doesn't have anything unique in it, but it's just a different name. So I could get rid of this because score is already on game command, right?
Yeah.
So this one we could probably drop, and then it should be covered in game command. Yeah, see that one we don't really need.
Yeah, and so the question here is like your send command is like you're taking all of these, like the union of all of these things, but like could it just be the base game command?
What happens if there are more properties that are outside of the base game command?
Well, what is it going to do with those properties? Is it going to do anything with them, or is it just going to be a no up?
You don't know, right?
But like, will anything go wrong if you send extra properties?
Oh, if I send extra properties?
Yeah.
Good question. If I send, well, this goes to the database. So whatever properties are defined go to the database. So
yeah, so you're just writing those docs into the database. So it's like it's up to you. It's like it depends on like how much safeguarding you want to have over like what actually gets written into the data persistence.
Yeah. But let's see. Okay, so most of these take the same one though. I have 3 defined. Why am I not using this one?
Like I think there's not anything, inherently wrong with what you're doing, right? If you want to be strict about saying like this is the contract of this API and I want to, constrain things to that contract throughout the code base. Like that is like the way you would go about it.
Well, that's kind of what I'm doing. But let's see. The current guest, these two have that in common, budget command, but I'm not too stressed about that. That's fine. Player guest, okay. Require fewer details as possible from arguments using unique interfaces provides fewer details. Yeah, I agree to that. I'm trying to like make it nice, but the other thing that I thought about is just that how long this list is going to get. Maybe it's fine, right? And I shouldn't worry about it. Or maybe I should. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those things like, sure, it's a little long.
Yeah. So, like we can even like take a step out of this, right? And say like there's nothing even inherently wrong with just like having this be a little bit more loose here.
I did have it loose.
Yeah, I know.
I had any.
And that like I'm trying to like think of a way to say this of like for the purposes of this use case, that could be fine. Right? Like the amount of safety you need on a given project is proportional to like how important is this project. And it's like if it's a demo, if it's a like a one-off thing, it's like yeah, like you can get away with not you can over-engineer something for its purpose. But if it's like okay, this is a product that a business is built on and it's making money and users depend on it, it's like yeah, you want to have the right level of safety in that context as well.
So then I think we could be done here for today because we got 10 minutes left. But I'm trying to figure out why doesn't it like my score here? It says score number is not assignable to parameter of type total size command union game command, or union budget
You're
command.
missing command.
There is no command here because this one's not a command.
But you have command as a required property in game command.
Right. I was just saying, but it's not a command.
Um,
So technically, this one should be a different type. It's just
but
like,
yeah, like what you have defined is saying a send command accepts a game command, and a
Right.
game command has a command field.
Right. Yeah, no, I understand that part. I'm just trying to think like,
Oh, I see. Yeah, you just want to like, what should you do instead?
what should I do instead, right? Because I feel like making this to be
I mean, yeah, if it's optional, it's like then the type doesn't really mean anything.
exactly. Now you understand exactly what I'm hinting at. It's like if everything's optional, then like what the heck, what the heck?
Yeah.
Like this one, total size guess game, like these shouldn't technically not be optional. It should be specified.
Yeah. Well, I think probably we won't get much further than that today because we could probably answer a few more questions.
Yeah, let's do that. This was fun though, like kind of refactoring this code. Honestly, the next function that I really would like it if in the future we could look at some of the other code that's involved in this. And here's why I care about that other code, because I think that there are other developers out there who are building applications where they're sharing components and knowing to where to put logic. You know what I mean? Like when you have a reusable component, because I feel like that reusable component shouldn't need to know anything about how to like connect to a database, right? If it's reusable. And so like I want us to next time refactor that code so that way we pull out all that data and then but then track the events that come out of the component with inputs and outputs the right way. And then respond to those events in the event handlers, etc., and then do the right thing. But it's cool to have like a working app to do this from versus building from scratch where we're just kind of like, yeah, suppose we'll do this, maybe we'll do that. You know what I mean? It's kind of like this is a project. How scalable the project is not the important part, but this is something that existed and had a purpose. So,
yeah. So I want to highlight a couple of things here.
Yeah, go for it.
Let's see. False4 here asks, is it normal to make requests in constructor instead of ng on init? Yeah, you can absolutely do that. There's nothing wrong with making requests in the constructor. I think the only real reason someone would even make a network request in ng on init is if you are waiting on some input value for that component.
Even if okay, fine. Because I usually think if there's a long running thing, like I think about constructors as like really fast functions that should complete really quickly. And I feel like
making a network request is not like blocking or anything like that, right? Like you're just kicking off a thing, and that's how.
Oh, that's true. It's async, right? You're right. You're right.
And that's saying like, okay, you're doing client-side rendered code, and you're going to be, doing these requests as things render, but you can also, there's other approaches to doing this as well, right? Like you can have route resolvers set up so that you're requesting data as part of the like route resolution, and like there's other ways to do it than just making requests in the component itself. But there's nothing like inherently wrong doing something in a constructor versus ng on init, and in fact that's probably the preferable way between the two, unless you need component input.
And you shouldn't do anything that's blocking, though. That's the thing. Like no long-standing blocking tasks, whatever that thing can do.
I mean, that's true for all UI code, right? Like you should never write any UI code that is blocking the UI thread.
That's true. That's actually like a universal. You're right. That's right.
So Adrian here asks, or they make a comment, removing Zone.js would be like migrating from Angular 1.6 to Angular 2. And it's actually not that bad. It's not trivial, but we have actually seen that for a lot of applications, if you are able to move most of your code to on push, move most of your components to on push, it's more straightforward than you think to get to zoneless. And if you're using signals, that's even easier. The place where it kind of gets tricky is like you do have to find the places where you might be implicitly relying on Zone.js to cause some change detection, mostly in places where you are updating state imperatively in your TypeScript code, instead of like updating something either through like a user event or interaction or through like a template binding. So it is actually like a bit easier than I think people would suspect, even though it's not trivial. Let's see, I saw another one in here. If I don't end up like clicking on your question and answering it, it's sometimes because it's a little bit more complicated than we would have the chance to talk about on stream, or it's maybe a little bit like too niche, or sometimes because I just don't know the answer. But I will try to just like highlight those and say I don't know. Let's see. Here's a question. Is there any specific debugging tool for Angular signals, something like a visual graph or timeline to show how signals are connected and updated? Stay tuned. This is something that we maybe are working on.
Maybe I work on. All right, Jeremy, let's wrap up today's stream. Friends at home, listen, you have been fantastic. I have had so much fun today refactoring my code. Jeremy, thank you for agreeing to like code review and like code mentor at the same time. That was pretty awesome to kind of discuss things and get my hands in the code today. It was really fun. Thanks everybody at home suggesting your ideas. I love it. Seriously, I love hearing your feedback and ideas on how we can make things better. Jeremy, I got the 3 questions for you. You know what they are. What are you playing? What are you reading? What are you watching?
Playing Clair Obscure Expedition 33. It is a masterpiece. Phenomenal soundtrack, phenomenal writing, some of the like best plotting in a game I've played in a long time. Combat is super fun. I have a hard time putting it down. And I haven't been watching a lot of TV because of that.
Yeah.
I finished a book recently, and I'm like completely blanking on what the book was. And I read John Scalzi's When the Moon Hits Your Eye. That's what it was.
Oh yeah, you were reading that.
It's fun. It's almost like a satire of The Martian in a way.
Sure.
Not directly. And then those season 19 of Taskmaster with Jason Benson. That's good stuff. What about you, Mark?
What am I reading? What I'm watching? What am I playing? Well, honestly, reading. I am reading a prompt engineering book because I think this is very interesting right now. So I'm reading that. And I'm also going through like book 7 of Murderbot. Just loving the series. It's just such a phenomenal series. Let's see, doing that. What am I watching? The Last of Us with my wife. That's pretty great. And then finally, I am let's say really watching playing. I am playing nothing. I've had no time to play video games. But Jeremy, I got to do one quick thing before we go because the people didn't get to see the app when it was running to know what we were talking about. Can I just show a quick demo of how it works?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me share my entire window. Please, nobody send me any messages. Let's see. Or it can be entire screen. Okay, I'm gonna share this screen only. All right. Yeah, let's see. Okay, so this is how it worked, friends. After we're working on. So here are the 2 screens on the right-hand side. I don't know if you can see this. Let's see. It's super tiny, but on the right-hand side is like the admin UI. On the left-hand side is the spectator UI. So from here, I could do things like I'm going to show some stuff. Let me hold on 1 second. So then I can set the current game, but you see how this one changed on the left-hand side for me changing them. Like, oh wait, I have the answer showing. So you could reset the solution or hide solution, but you're like, oh, these little apps on the left-hand side, I can't read those. Here's how I was able to make it work. You see, so I have buttons on this side where I can like have you do like, I can control your screen in a way, if you're watching this from like a different like place. Okay. Anyway, so, and then I had all my like apps here, I even had a wheel game that you could set the players for, and then you could spin the wheel. And so like the spectators got to watch the whole thing going. And then if you were a player, so let's say you were going to do, which game did I actually have working? Total Size. Is this the one? Let me see. That's not the one I had. They all worked, but I had one where you could Okay, this one was a fun one. So if you were a player, so let's say I was a player. Let me do this, and then I'm gonna have to take this off the internet. So I could drag. Oh, you weren't the current player. Dang, I was gonna show you, but you have to be the current player. Okay. Let's see. See, it's three. It's like a 3-screen app. So let's say, which player did I join into? I joined as player number 5. So I'll set player number 5 as the current player. All right. So now if I go back to this one, I could drag and drop. And then once I was done dragging and dropping, let me see. I got to clearly reset the guesses. I don't know. So anyway, so that's how it worked. And then so you could drag and drop and you set this and then you could do submit. What you can see is that when I became the player, you could click a submit, but if you were not the player, so let's say I cleared the selected player, you see the submit was gone, and this was on the other player screen. You see, so why were we refactoring this? Because this was built with coffee or tea, sweat, and tears, and I thought it'd be a fun activity for us to spend some time just working on it together, right? Like as a group, and look at the code and like improving the code. So yes, 3-screen app. I built it. It does work. It definitely does work. We were just trying to make it better. Okay, so this was a lot of fun. I had a blast with you all. Jeremy, why don't you take us home since you kicked us off today? Take us home, Jeremy.
All right, everybody, go out there and continue authoring high-quality software.
I love it. I love it. I love it. We'll see you all soon. More streams coming soon, friends. All right, bye for now.